Tekken as a series has suffered through a fair share of glitches or balancing with perhaps unintended consequences. Probably not to the same degree as some other series, mind you, but from time to time characters are granted with powers that seem to defy reason, simply don't function, or at very least exceed their intended use case. Akuma's inescapable rage art in Tekken 7, Steve's infinite stun in Tekken 5, Bob's looping relaunch and Elisa's blockable high counter in Tekken Tag 2, the list really just goes on. Something shared between all of these examples though is that they relate to separate unique characters. Unintended interactions, oddities and glitches are bound to crop up at some point in a character's lifespan. They get fixed and the developer and players move on with their lives. But one character can't seem to keep themselves out of trouble. Today, Rubbish is talking about Jin Kazama and his bag of many tricks.
Having an even remote interest in Tekken almost automatically guarantees you having at least heard of the Electric Wind Godfist. This series-defining launching Just Frame saw its introduction, along with its first user, in 1997's Tekken 3. Wind Godfist is a high launching attack that is executed from Jin's crouch dash. Hitting the button at the same time as the attack though gives it extra properties, increasing the pushback drastically and making the move advantageous on guard. This is a recipe that has largely remained identical even now, more than 25 years later. But what a lot of people don't know is that along with Wind Godfist and its electric companion, there has existed a third version of the move since its origin. By delaying the crouch dash as long as possible, while also making sure that down forward remains held, Jin can stay in the crouch dash stance for an extended period. Hitting the right punch button as late as possible gives him this. This non-launching Wind Godfist is colloquially known as the Special Wind Godfist. In Tekken 3, sharing the frame data of the normal Wind Godfist but not launching means it probably earns that first name as well. Difficult to execute but worse on hit makes it the worst of both worlds. It is quite advantageous on hit though, but no attack is guaranteed as a follow-up. It is impossible to know if the Special Wind Godfist is an intended move in Tekken 3, a game that hosts a lot of quirks that were later adopted into the series' core game design. And that is exactly what occurred with Special Wind Godfist, not only returning for the next game, Tekken Tag, but actually making the leap into Tekken 5 when this earlier version of Jin returned as the revamped Devil Jin. For this Tekken 5 version, perhaps as an homage, the Special Wind Godfist remained in the character's toolkit completely unchanged. But for the next game, Tekken 6, an attempt seemed to have been made to give it some sort of use case. While the Electric remains the strongest version of the Wind Godfist, the Special Wind Godfist is now a whopping +10 on hit. And while Tekken boasts a lot of attacks with ridiculously high frame advantage on hit, or especially counter hit, this is not the neutered frame advantage that allows guarding. Meaning Devil Jin's 10 frame jab string, flash punch combo is fully guaranteed on hit. A string which just so happens to wall splat in Tekken 6 for pretty ludicrous damage, giving the Special Wind Godfist a niche of its own compared to its much stronger bigger brother, the Electric. Albeit a very niche. Special Wind Godfist remained identical in the following iterations, Tekken 6 BR and Tekken Tag 2, but the flash punch combo did not, losing its ability to wall splat and therefore returning the Special Wind Godfist to total irrelevance. Perhaps noticing this, the move was given a full 2 more frames of hit stun in Tekken 7, allowing Devil Jin to connect with his 12 frame Punisher, back 1-2. This again makes the special wind Godfist slightly stronger than the electric if it hits at the wall. But where it really shines is when Devil Jin can utilize Tekken 7's breakable floors and walls, making the reward for hitting special wind Godfist on the correct stage pretty wild. Come Tekken 8, the move was completely removed, possibly owing to it occupying an incredibly small niche, possibly because even veteran players of the character didn't even know it existed. A just frame move that could possibly be described as the complete opposite of the special wind Godfist is the infamous just frame laser scraper. A Jin move that once again could theoretically be considered an unintended one, but factually definitely had unintended consequences. In the leap from Tekken Tag to Tekken 4, Jin was almost completely reworked from the bottom up. A new moveset, a new outfit, and probably a new outlook on life.
There's no reason to fight.
Though his character-defining 3-hit strings, Laser Cannon and Laser Scraper came along for the ride, and during the jump gained a couple of new nifty tricks. The straight punching Laser Cannon largely remained identical, but the uppercut version, Laser Scraper, was given a hold option for the last hit. By delaying the attack, Jin could make the final hit an unblockable launcher. A launcher with a blue trail clearly denoting this powered up status. Jin, unlike a lot of Tekken 4 characters, had access to high damaging and consistent juggles, with 1-2-3 giving him a guaranteed down 4 on hit. With unblockables being such a strong concept in fighting games, Namco had obviously considered the possible counterplay for such an attack, making it possible to react to the windup of Jin charging it and sidestepping in response. The problem was that the charge on Laser Scraper was not a binary switch, meaning Jin could choose to let go of the attack whenever he felt like it, and if timed correctly, you could release the attack early while also being granted the unblockable status. This is the Just Frame Laser Scraper. For as infamous as this move is within the Tekken community, it is astonishingly often misrepresented by the people who talk about it, with reports of the string ranging from being fully guaranteed on block to the more common description of it being guaranteed if the first punches hit the opponent. On block, there isn't actually that much to it. Every level of charge Jin can attempt will lose out to the opponent stepping to his left. Even then, this hardly makes the unblockable bad on guard, since it basically forces the opponent to move every single time Jin initiates the string on block. Unlike later games, which made these 2 hits hover around -10, Jin is left at only -2 on block, making it massively advantageous to force the opponent to step. Not to mention that Jin has access to an incredibly strong parry in Tekken 4, with massive reward and basically no whiff animation. When Jin connects with the opponent though, their available options dramatically decrease. It is still possible to sidewalk the Just Frame Laser Scraper even if you get hit, provided Jin doesn't hit you off axis, but it is no longer possible to step the uncharged version of the final strike, meaning you're put in a 50-50 launch situation no matter what option you pick. To make matters worse, if you manage to correctly guess that Jin will go for the normal uppercut, he's only -9 on block, which means most characters only get their jab as a punish, and some get no punish at all. And even if you do preempt the Just Frame and step to punish it, you can actually get penalized if Jin fails the execution check, as the fully charged version can clip your attempted punish. And this is just on normal hit. On counter hit, you have no available out and Just Frame Laser Scraper is 100% guaranteed. All in all, it's a bad situation. Tekken 4 had a slew of balancing issues which cut its competitive life short. but among these, Just Frame Laser Scraper ranks highly. For lots of players, their tournament life in Tekken 4 was entirely defined by their ability to handle this one string. And if you didn't quickly show a Jin player that you had the counterplay on lock, and also a good read on their habits, you would be immediately knocked out by this metagame defining strategy. It is impossible to know if this specific version of the move was an intended attack option. On the one hand, it does seem like a pretty blatantly overpowered attack to knowingly give a character. But on the other hand, Tekken 4 shipped with a ridiculous amount of hidden just frame attacks that ranged from giving some extra damage all the way to making hell sweeps safe on block. So it doesn't seem that implausible. While Just Frame Laser Scraper is without a doubt the trick of Jin's that has had the most impact on the series, it is not the most powerful. For that one, we have to return to his cradle to take a look at Tekken 3 Jin's busted dash cancel. Nestled within the original Japanese arcade release for Tekken 3 exists one of the strongest attacks in Tekken history, probably owing its existence to a quirk designed into Jin's downforward 1-2 string. If the Jin player inputs forward after the second hit of the attack, Jin recovers 1 to 2 frames quicker than normal by dashing. But this earliest release of Tekken 3 actually allows this dash cancel to happen between the hits rather than after them. Nicknamed the Oni Cancel in Japan because of the Japanese original title for his downforward 1 string, Oni Hachimon. To successfully execute the Oni Cancel, a player has to pull off a series of very stringent inputs, however. As documented by 538, a member of the legendary combo maker group KYSG. This required input is extremely specific. 2 frames after hitting downforward 1, the player piloting Jin has to input a forward direction for exactly 1 frame, followed by 1 frame of neutral. A second forward direction for 1 frame follows this, and after 8 frames, the final forward direction accompanied by any other button press. If input correctly, Jin will dash instead of performing the second hit. The stringency of the technique and its short lifespan probably explains why, even if it existed in a very popular version of the game, it never really saw any play. Thankfully though, even without tool assist, we can investigate the implications of the Oni Cancel. While it was removed from all future versions of Tekken 3, both arcade and PlayStation releases, a ghost of the code exists in the first revision of Tekken 3's Japanese PlayStation version. With a GameShark code injector, we can access the Oni Cancel still hidden in the code and try it out for ourselves. It is not an overstatement to say that with access to this glitched version of downforward 1, Jin is without a doubt the strongest character in the game. And it isn't even close. This version of downforward 1 impacts exactly all areas of his play. Combos are the most obvious area in which the glitch majorly impacts the character, allowing this version of Jin a truly bonkers amount of juggle creativity and ballooning the possible hit counts of his juggles upwards to the double digits. A far cry from the game's normal 3 to 6 hits. Funnily enough, however, this area of the glitch is slightly less impactful than what you might think. Jin's Tekken 3 juggle damage is already so monstrous that the damage differential isn't actually that big, especially considering the execution requirement. And as there are no walls to reach in Tekken 3, the extra carry length is totally meaningless. For some launchers though, most notably his axe kick and hell sweep, his average juggle damage can dramatically shift, from a mini combo to something similar to his true launchers. Versus standing opponents though, downforward 1 is transformed into a true monster. Because the Oni Cancel is so fast, it allows some pretty crazy stuff. On normal hit, Jin can link into his jab string flash punch combo, making down forward 1 a safe, fast mid poke that does a third of your life bar on hit. And on counter hit, it gets even worse. Firstly, counter hit allows Jin to link into another Oni Cancel to the same string, making it just that more punishing. But counter hit also allows for electric to connect with the correct execution, turning Jin's down forward 1 into a safe on block 13 frame mid launcher on counter hit. That is, if you can meet the execution requirements. But even if you aren't getting hit by the down forward 1, the dash cancel makes sure that Jin dominates the rest of the cast, basically allowing him to run any mix-up of his choosing, and pretty easily so. Since the Oni is executing a forward input, it is incredibly easy to slip into a crouch dash, or to do a dashing move, or a while standing move. And the Oni granting so much frame advantage means that the opponent doesn't really have any recourse but to guess what Jin will do next. Remember how that Hell Sweep got a damage buff? And while the Oni Cancel is incredibly difficult to execute, one should never underestimate fighting game players. If it can be done, it will be done. So it was probably good that they got rid of it early. In Tekken 8, none of these tricks remain. Some definitely for the better, but others maybe not. Still, life is sometimes stranger than fiction, and the design cues for some Tekken 8 characters, like Heihachi, are seemingly almost inspired by unintended glitches in games from decades past.